All right, readers. So last time we had a reading lesson, we talked a little bit about Lulu and how she changed a bit in the book that we were reading. When we talked about how she changed from not wanting Fleischmann's help at all to actually hiring him as her assistant because she was in some trouble and she realized that she really needed his help. And we were looking at how she changed, we were looking at why she changed. And I asked you to think about that with the characters in your book that you're reading. But today what I want to teach you is that sometimes in our books, it's not the main character that changes. Sometimes some of the other characters change too. So I want us to read a couple more chapters of Lulu, because remember when we stopped, Lulu had just said 10, or actually 11, reasons why she hated Fleischmann. And we're about to hear Fleischmann's response. So as we're reading, we're going to read 2 chapters, and I want you to pay attention to what Lulu does and how she acts, but also to how Fleischmann acts. Because sometimes there might be other characters in the book that change, not just the main one. So I want us to be thinking about Fleischmann, and if he changes, because we're starting to get to the end of our book, and I want us to think about how he was at the beginning and what he's like now, how he's going to respond to Lulu. See if he changes from how he was when we first started. Remember, he's this goody-goody who's always very kind and very nice, right? But Lulu just gave a whole list of things that she hates about him, was not very kind. So let's see what his response is. Chapter 22. Except for a while, Fleischmann didn't say anything. He was busy untying Lulu from the tree, which turned out to be much harder than he, or she, or even I, had ever expected. Before he was finished, however, he took a deep breath and said to Lulu, "It's not fair to hate a person because he's perfect." And then he added, so softly she barely could hear him, "Besides, I'm not perfect. I am so not perfect." So not perfect? Fleischmann was so not perfect? "Keep talking, Fleischmann," Lulu said to Fleischmann, looking pleased for the very first time that day. "Stop trying to untie me and tell me more." Fleischmann stopped untying and told her more. "I don't change my underpants every single day. You wouldn't believe the mess that's under my bed. I'm scared of the dark. I'm also scared, make that absolutely terrified, of crawly creatures like caterpillars and worms. I can only speak German to dachshunds and French to poodles. Whenever I try to speak German or French to humans, they can never understand me. I play the flute because I already tried and couldn't play the violin, the piano, the guitar, the clarinet, the drums, and the gusli. The what? The what? I really don't feel like discussing that right now." Lulu kept listening cheerfully until Fleischmann was done telling more and went back to untying. And then she said, looking even more cheerful, she said, "Terrified of crawly creatures? Smelly underwear? Can't play the gusli?" Fleischmann shrugged. Lulu kept on talking. "But what about all that goody-goody stuff? The carrots, the sneakers, the smile? Plus being so honored and thrilled? Plus being so smart?" "That's who I am," said Fleischmann. "I can't help it. Just like you can't help—" And all of a sudden he started to speak in a very loud voice. "That you are really, really dumb about dogs. Plus, you certainly aren't the nicest girl in the world." Whoa, listen to Fleischmann! Whoever knew he could talk that way? Lulu glared at Fleischmann. Fleischmann glared at Lulu. But instead of an impasse, they had a conversation. A quite noisy conversation that lasted the rest of the morning and all of the afternoon. There was yelling from Lulu, and crying from Fleischmann, and yelling from Fleischmann, and crying from Lulu, and, from both of them, much stamping of feet. But when they were finished with all of that, Lulu and Fleischmann shook each other's hand. Chapter 23. From that day on, Lulu and Fleischmann were more than boss and assistant and more than teammates. They were, in fact, partners, with Lulu offering Fleischmann, and making him take, exactly half of the money she earned walking dogs, and promising to teach him, for only $10, how not to be scared of caterpillars and worms, plus whispering, in a voice he hardly could hear, but at least she said it, that although she had no wish to be the nicest girl in the world, boring, too boring, she would try her very best to be nicer to him. Somewhere deep in his forest, Mr. Bee is slowly nodding his head and smiling. Fleischmann, in return, promised that he'd give away the shirt that says, "I'm here to bring some happiness into your life," teach her, for only $10, to understand dogs, try his very best to stop saying how honored and thrilled and delighted and smart he was, and work on smiling a less annoying smile. Did Lulu stop hating Fleischmann? Yes, she did. Did Lulu stop being rude to him? Yes, she did. Was Lulu now willing to talk with him while they walked the dogs together on weekday mornings? Yes, she was. And so did Fleischmann and Lulu finally turn into new best friends? No, they did not. You want a happy ending? Read Cinderella. This story has only a sort of happy ending. Because Fleischmann is still too annoying for Lulu to love. And Lulu is still too fierce for Fleischmann to love. They respect each other. They count on each other. They're partners and dog walking buddies. If one of them got tied up, the other would help. But unless they turn into totally different people, I'm pretty sure they won't be new best friends. Still, the last time I saw them together, they were walking Brutus and Pookie and Cordelia. Lulu was trying to kick some dirt on Fleischmann's perfect sneakers. Fleischmann was shaking a carrot in Lulu's face. And as they got near the end of the street, I could hear them loudly singing this money song. Larry, Liam, Lester, Lou, all this money for us two. Kathy, Carly, Chloe, Claire, all this money we can share. Money, 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 money. So, those were quite some 2 chapters. Now, like it says at the end, they weren't totally different people, right? So they're still not best friends. But if we think about Lulu and Fleischmann, if we think about how they were at the beginning of the book when we met them, Lulu was bossy, rude, mean. Fleischmann was this goody-goody. He only said nice things. He was always helping people. And they did not get along at all. They did not like each other. Now, we just read a couple of last chapters. There's a little bit more. There's an extra timeout we won't read today. And they're a bit different, right? Lulu, she's still pretty bossy, but she's not so rude to Fleischmann. And Fleischmann's still very nice, but he was pretty honest with Lulu, and he kind of told her some mean things, right? He said she was dumb about dogs. And they both changed because now they work together and they're teammates, right? They're not boss and assistant. They're partners, right? Actually, they're not even teammates. They're partners. They share evenly the money. They help each other with things. So when you're reading your book, yes, you want to pay attention to the main character because they're usually the one that changes. But don't forget about all the other characters too, because a lot of times those other characters change and it could be really important and it could actually affect the main character. Because in this, Lulu and Fleischmann both had to change for their problem to be solved. Because now they can both walk the dogs, they both make the money, and they work together. But they both had to change in order to make that happen. So as you're reading your book today, I want you to be paying attention to all of the characters in your book and thinking about, are they all the same as when I first met them at the beginning? Or have more than one of them changed? Because it's pretty possible that maybe the main character isn't even the one that changes. Maybe it's just another character. So don't forget about all your characters in your book as you're reading. And pay attention to what they're doing, how they're acting, and how they might have changed based on some trouble or some problem that might have come up in the story. All right? And go ahead and get your books out and be thinking about that while you're reading today.